We were 7, then 5 and 3, and now we're 2 weeks away from Clemson and LSU kicking off 7:30 in the real Death Valley, by the way. And I'm going to jump into that in just a second. Happy Saturday to you. If you're like me, you've done so much that you could probably just, hope to be kidnapped by a very nice group of people who would take you to a luxury resort, though that's not normally how that happens unless, you pay someone to do it and stage it. And I'm saying way too many things. I'm glad you're hanging out talking college football with me. If you love talking Clemson football, I hope you'll subscribe. It's free. I do appreciate it. Also, I have another channel where I talk about college football as a whole. I just previewed Georgia. I previewed South Carolina a couple of weeks ago. And as we're getting closer to the season, I'm doing my very best to get some predictions out there, to get some previews, and I'm trying to do them in under 10 minutes. It's been more like 11, but y'all know it's very difficult to review teams who left, who's still there, new coaches, etc. But go check that out and pass it along to your friends and your neighbors. Hopefully you'll subscribe there. So I'm going to dive into a giveaway. Now, I have teamed up with Bill Mooney and 1790 Knife and Tool. They're out of Pendleton, South Carolina. Yes, right around the corner from our beloved Clemson Tigers. And there's my picture. I'm doing a giveaway. And so here's the giveaway. Here's what we're doing. Some of you have already signed up. The details are simple. I'm reading this from the website. All you need to do is register using the form below and provide some content ideas, video ideas for me and the channel. And I'll pick a winner, a runner-up, and a third place winner. So for first place, you're going to get a Raptor knife. If you're in second place, you'll get a Firmus knife. And if you're in third place, you'll get a pry tool. Now, listen, this is not a cheap knife that you would go out and buy down at the dollar store, okay? Where you go and you take it and you clean the crust out from around your fingers, or you get that black sock fuzz out from the corner of your toes, and then you slice an orange with it. I know y'all do that. By the way, it's not sanitized. But anyway, these are custom knives. So if you are a custom knife connoisseur, look at that. Look at that Clemson Raptor right there. That is officially licensed, by the way. Beautiful, beautiful products. There's a pry tool right there. Wonderful. Folks, if you want to buy something as well, go to their website. And I have the link below this video, by the way. The link is, somebody asked me, where can I fill out the form? In the link below this video. But if you end up buying something, you want a 5% discount, use the code right here, DABO5. Yeah, DABO5, and it'll get you 5% off. Also free shipping. And you are automatically registered in the August giveaway program, and you are covered by our their CY6 lifetime guarantee. Y'all drop by and tell Bill hello, and let him know that you heard about the giveaway here on the show. Dropping in real quick to the line here. Will Man, love from Florida. Good to see you, my man. Rustastic. Hi, Brian. We're excited. We're excited over here. Take down LSU. Hope you're feeling as great as I am. My wife and I will be at the LSU game. Cohen Pope. Go Tigers. Go Tigers. It's good to see y'all. All right, let's dive right in. Now, I know I'm 4 minutes in. I haven't talked about Clemson football yet, but if you're new to my channel, you know sometimes I'll share some things, my hat's crooked, about my life. Now, my son, if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, he is actually boarding a plane to come home. He has been gone since January the 11th on a mission trip, and he has been gone for a while. We're all freaking out that he's finally coming home. So it's an extremely exciting day for him to be back. And so he's coming back just in time for college football season. So, son, if you're watching, fly safe. It's not like he's actually flying the plane, but have a good flight back. And we're ready to pick you up. We're ready to have a good time. And and so on. Ready for college football. So, let's talk about Clemson football this week. What went on. Now, we had a scary moment in Clemson football. And if you don't know this, if you haven't heard about this, it's going to bother you at first because it's like, uh-oh. And when the headline came across my phone, I was like, oh no. Adam Randall got injured this week. Yes, the Adam Randall, who was a big recruit coming out of the Myrtle Beach area. He's a big dude, 6'2", 230-ish. He's fast. But the guy has just been, I mean, it's just unfortunate that he's had a lot of injuries during his tenure at Clemson, and it's really cost him. Because when the guy has been healthy, you can tell he's a freak. But a lot of people's been talking about how he's going to be the starting running back that's more like a running back from committee, but he's been taking first-team reps and so on. We know what he did in the Texas game. We know the return that he had against SMU, setting up that incredible record field goal against SMU in the ACC championship. So when you think about those moments, you go, if this guy can just stay healthy, fill in the blank. And it's always really good, by the way. But I have been saying it, and I'm not trying to be pessimistic here. I'm just saying when someone who has a history of getting injured a lot hits the field, they start to see significant playing time, especially in a role where you get hit a lot. You hold your breath. If you're a decent human being, you hold your breath for them. And so this week it came out that he was practicing in a non-contact jersey. But that's not how the headline read, that he was injured. And I went, oh no, here we go. I mean, it's really, really sad. Fortunately, it just looks like he was tweaked. I don't know exactly what part of his body was hurt, but it was, it was just tweaked. And then he ended up ripping off some incredible, I'm talking about like long runs. So, that's good. Walker Parks, our starting, I believe, right guard, the old man of the group. He's been around a very, very long time. He I think he was on crutches. And I'm like, dadgummit, But Dabo says that he's going to be ready for the game against LSU in 2 weeks. So that's good. I think Jaden Lucas was tweaked as well, but I think he's going to be all right. I could be wrong there, but I'm pretty sure he's fine. But hey, when you get into these scrimmages, these preseason scrimmages, stuff's going to happen, right? I mean, you're hitting, as much as the game has put an emphasis on safety, when you have guys who are freak athletes, especially at this level, and they work out all the time and they start hitting one another, stuff happens. And it's sad, and you hate for that to happen, but at the end of the day, it is a contact sport. So you can remove all the dirty hits, but when you take a guy who works out nonstop and lifts weights all the time, and you put him up against another guy like that, it's bound to happen. So hopefully they will stay healthy. Let's dive into Cade Klubnik. Cade Klubnik, what was he? 5 of 10, but he threw like 4 touchdowns out of the 5 passes. It was something crazy like that. But Klubnik seems to be doing well right now. And so we're turning our eyes towards, 2 weeks from now. Now, of course, if you've been watching my channel, you know that I've been talking about college football actually starts next weekend in FBS. And it's Kansas State and Iowa State. They're playing in Dublin, Ireland. And so some of you, you're like, look, I only keep up with Clemson football and that's it. And to each their own. Me, I like watching college football. So if I got an alert on my phone in 20 minutes that said, hey, Doo-Doo State's playing the Red Hat Ladies of Idaho in 20 minutes, I'd probably tune in. I mean, I'd probably tune in. Yeah. I sounded Canadian there. Yeah. Idaho State, UNLV next weekend. The only interesting thing about that is Dan Mullen is the head coach of UNLV. And they've brought in a bunch of former 5-stars into UNLV. And now, if this happened at like a mid to major SEC school, and what I mean by mid to major, like it's a mid-tier SEC team, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But that it's UNLV, that they just had a really successful season with Barry Odom, who's now at Purdue. And now you have Dan Mullen coming out of retirement, basically. He became a TV analyst. And now he's going to be coaching at UNLV. It could be interesting. That could be one I'll tune in to. You got Fresno State at Kansas. Kansas, did y'all hear about how much money Kansas received from a donor this week? $300 million. Yeah. Yes. I was on Instagram, and I follow a few different college football Instagram pages. I can't remember which one it is, but it was so funny. It was a picture of Ryan Williams from Alabama, Jeremiah Smith from Ohio State, and it was someone else. I can't remember who it is, but it was that tier of college football players, and it said, next year, Kansas starting lineup next year, meaning they can pay these guys to leave wherever they're at to come in. I thought it was funny. Some will get offended at that and start going, no, they would never leave. It's a joke, but it's also kind of true. Sam Houston, Western Kentucky, and then Stanford at Hawaii. Now, here's something interesting. I like to go back and watch old games. I'm one of those guys who just last week I was watching the 1993 Florida State at Notre Dame game of the century. And folks, I'm going to tell you right now, it's on YouTube. No matter if you love or hate both schools, the production for that game by NBC was amazing. You got to think this is 1993. It was way better than anything I watch now. No offense. I mean, there's some good production out there, but I'm talking about when you take it back 32 years ago, and that's really weird for me to say. 32 years ago, I had just turned 11. Yeah, that hit me. You should see my 9-year-old when I explained that to him. He was like, this was when I said 1993, and I looked at the date. It was November the 13th. I said, oh, I had just turned 11. And he was like, I'll turn 43 in a couple of months. So it was just weird for me. But I like to go back and watch some of those games. And I'll tell you this, we were talking about Hawaii right here. Back in, I believe, 2003. 2003, Hawaii beat Alabama in Hawaii. So today, when you have these 20-year-olds running around and their only perception of Alabama is Nick Saban, it's like speaking a foreign language to them. When you bring up Alabama not being amazing. Now, that Hawaii team was not bad, if my memory serves me correct, but it's kind of funny. Going back and watching some of these games, I watched a little bit of the 1995 Nebraska and Colorado game. It was in Boulder, which I always enjoyed watching that, especially when it was in Boulder. Ray Caruth was playing for Colorado. Of course, Tommy Frazier playing quarterback for Nebraska. A lot of people believes that was one of, if not the best college football team ever. Of course, Miami's going to have their say. Florida State's going to have their say. Southern Cal. There's always going to be someone going, oh, no, it's this team or this team. Well, let's just do this. Let's just put it this way. Nebraska 95 was one of the best teams to ever play college football, and I wholeheartedly believe that. They ran the option nonstop. And if my memory serves me correct, you can check me on this, and please correct me if I'm wrong. Nebraska ran the option like a machine in 1995. They did not have one holding call all season. This is what's so funny. True freshman Amon Green took the first pitch. It was the first play for Nebraska on offense. So Colorado had the ball. They moved the ball a little bit. Then they had to punt. The very first offensive play from scrimmage, Amon Green took it to the house. It's a beautiful play. And what's so funny about it is I remember watching that game live and being shocked. I was pulling for Colorado. A lot of people, if you're a Clemson fan, maybe you forgot this, but Clemson was trying extremely hard to get Tommy Frazier to Clemson because he was a big deal coming out of high school. He was a machine. And that's about the time that Danny Ford was long gone. Ken Hatfield, he had just got fired, or he was about to get fired. They lost something like 57-0 to Florida State. They lost 24-0 to UNC. They lost to Wake Forest. And I guess Tommy didn't want to join that. And as much as I love Clemson, I wouldn't want to join that either, especially when you see a team going down like that. And then, of course, it got worse. But, yeah, that's some of the games that's coming up next week. And you can check those out. Let's go back to Clemson. Let's talk about them for a moment. So we are in that holding period where the number one thing is that Clemson stays healthy. That's one. And then two, they execute. You know that LSU is coming in with a loaded team. They're one of the few teams that is returning their starting quarterback along with a lot of their production from last year. And they added talent from the transfer portal and, of course, recruiting. They always recruit well. Clemson is one of those teams as well. They returned the majority of their talent on both sides of the ball. They returned their quarterback. They bring a lot of continuity back to the table. And then you have Tom Allen, who hasn't even coached the first down of football, but it's looking good on the defense. Penn State is another team that brings back a lot of their production and their starting quarterback. They have Jim Knowles taking Tom Allen's place. He left Ohio State. That's interesting. He leaves Ohio State to go to Penn State. I really don't know that much about Jim Knowles' background other than the guy can coach. He's a talented guy. Get in here, say hello. Say hello to some people. Shane Bentley, good to see you. The season is almost here. Yes, sir. Big John, good afternoon, young professor. You're about 2.5 years older than my daughter. In my entire life, I've only seen one 6-star college football player just one time. Would it be Cole Turner? It would be Cole Turner. If Cole Turner's family or Cole Turner ever saw this, we're not making fun of you, sir. You are fast, you are talented, but we're just kind of picking at Dabo how he'll overcompensate for Cole Turner. I mean, TJ Moore and Wesco could go out and combine for 900 yards in a game receiving. And Cole Turner could have one good catch and he would rant about Cole. And we know why. He's taking care of his friend's son. And that's very good of Dabo. But if I was Cole Turner, I'd be like, I appreciate you. I love you. Thank you for all you've done. But you don't have to do that. Big John's making fun of me. And I don't want Big John making fun of me. This is Cole Turner speaking, that is. Good to see you, my man. Thanks for supporting the channel. Trent Davis. Hey, Brian, got a question for you. And I know the season hasn't started yet, but if Clemson gets a top 4 seed in the playoff, what matchups teams from? Okay. Trent's good to see you in here, buddy. Oh, man. I'll tell you this, Trent Davis. If on my other channel, yes, I'm plugging the other channel. Why wouldn't I? But I dive into other football teams. And the main goal of that, which, by the way, the link is below, another college football playoff podcast. Good grief. another college football podcast. The link is below. Go check it out. I've had the task of diving into other college football teams, Trent. And Ohio State lost their starting quarterback, and they lost experienced talent. Now, notice my descriptive there, experienced talent. I did not say they do not have talent across the board. Of course they do. They're Ohio State. They're spending a ton of money. They're the defending national champions. They have Jeremiah Smith. They have Caleb Downs. But they do have a new quarterback. That's a big deal. They have a new defensive coordinator because Jim Knowles is gone. That's a big deal. Coaching matters. And if your fan base, any fan base, including Clemson, and Clemson just had to learn this the hard way, folks. If your fan base thinks just because you have the same head coach there and you have some success, and that will be the difference by itself, and it doesn't matter how much experienced talent is coming back and or coaches that are productive. If you get to that point to where you exclude the experienced talent and the coaches, I'm just telling you are willfully selecting to overlook the most important variables in figuring out if a team is talented or not. Let me phrase that. Experience, they're talented, and they will be talented enough and experienced enough to actually make a legitimate run. So Ohio State lost a lot of experience. So did Alabama. They have a new quarterback. Oregon, they return a lot of their team, but they have a new quarterback. They recruit well. I know that someone, if they're an Oregon Duck fan, which you run into very few of them here, and especially in the South, it'll be like, oh, we recruited someone. Y'all recruit well all the time. And I have no beef with Oregon, but all I'm going to say is still no national championship. Still. Can't do it. Can't do it. All that Nike money running through out there. Now, could Dan Lanning legitimately be the one to do it? Sure. Dan Lanning's good at what he does. I respect his coaching. Absolutely. So, but I'm just saying, you know, it gets to the point to where you have so much talent. And to quote Steve Spurrier, by the way, folks, I know I have a bunch of rabbit trails and stuff I'm running right now, but I'm just having some fun, y'all. That's what it's supposed to be. And I know I need to stay on subject. To answer your question, that I'm going to do the whole Steve Spurrier quote. Georgia, they have a new quarterback. They've lost a lot of experience. There's a lot of teams out there, man. So it's kind of a toss-up. But I would not be shocked to see Clemson, if they end up in a bye, they get like a top 4 seed. I think that there's a plethora of teams out there that could actually play them. I mean, obviously, Ohio State and Oregon, one of them is not going to get the bye because they didn't win the conference. Penn State, they're the favorite to win the conference by Phil Steele. So one of those teams that doesn't have the bye, it could be Ohio State, it could be Oregon. Maybe you're looking at a team like maybe Alabama sneaks in and they have to play in. Texas, I'm telling you, Texas is another team. They lost a lot of talent, a ton of talent. No, let me rephrase that, a ton of experienced talent. I'm trying to correct my verbiage here because it does matter. And they have a new quarterback. I don't care if it is Arch Manning, and no offense to Arch Manning. I'm not taking a shot at Arch or his family. I'm just saying he is starting behind an offensive line that lost like 3 starters. And that experience matters. Most of their leading wide receiver, most of their talent is done. Or experienced wide receiver is done with. They're gone. Again, they have talent. They're paying well in Austin. They're paying a lot of money. And good for those young guys who are getting it. But when you hit the field, and whether you love or hate Georgia, Texas had Georgia in Austin, and we saw what Georgia did to them in their own stadium. We saw what they did to Arch Manning in their stadium. We saw what Georgia did to Texas in the SEC championship. And that was with all that talent there. So, folks, I'm just telling you. Anyway, so to answer your question, Trent, long form, it could be any of those teams. Maybe a Big 12 team gets in. The Big 12 looks like the Wild West to me. You just really can't figure out who's good and who's not, who's overrated. You got to think the Arizona State ended up winning it last year, and they were picked to finish near dead last. It's really hard to tell. This is probably a question for about week 6. And I think by then we can answer a lot. And I know it's kind of like a duh response. So like, duh. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm seeing at this point. I think that this college football season is wide open as a whole. And that plays in Clemson's favor. That Ohio State and Alabama and Tennessee and Georgia and Texas and Oregon, like all of them has a new quarterback. A lot of them has lost a bunch of starters and experienced talent. That plays in Clemson's favor. That plays in Penn State's favor. Except for Oregon and the quarterback situation, that plays into Oregon's favor. So we will see. We will see. I was going to look at my Instagram because, y'all, I am telling you, I read one of those old Steve Spurrier comments, and I am telling you, I was laughing so flipping hard. Because Spurrier, love him or hate him, he was ruthless. He was ruthless. He would just say stuff. He knew how to stir the pot. And I think I sent this to my son. Oh, this is one of Steve Spurrier's quotes. And so get ready to laugh. Steve Spurrier said, "You can have ball players and still not win football games. All you LSU fans know about that." How savage! Savage! Savage, Steve Spurrier. Love him or hate him, that is hilarious. Steve Spurrier. That's what he said. And folks, that's the thing about when we're talking about football teams. Maybe you meet me in person, we're conversating. I hear people talking about college football teams, and they're like, "Oh, they're so talented." And I go, "But who is standing on the sidelines? Who's calling the play? Who put together the strategy? Who is your offensive line coach?" Like, really? Now, I have some good South Carolina fans who follow me. You trash talk me a little bit. I trash talk you. It's all in good fun. At the end of the day, folks, college football is nothing. It's a pastime, and there's no reason to. I don't like it when people gets overly mouthy. Like me, I get on here, I have some fun. We poke fun, but when people start getting serious and they're like almost ready to fight and they start cussing you and they get that look on their face like, you just walked up and groped their wife. Okay, that's too far. That's too far. Clemson fan, South Carolina fan, Ohio State fan, LSU fan, Georgia, whatever. The fighting doo-doo turds, community college, it's way too far. It's way too far. And I'm sorry. I have a couple of college football channels, and I'm telling you, I'm not that serious about it. And I love college football. It's just dumb. That's just dumb. It lets me know that someone's either A, drunk, which that's not an excuse, by the way. I just had a little too much to drink, and I said some things that I don't care. You don't say that. You don't say that. I care less if you had too much drink. That's on you, pal. You're either a lightweight or you're a drunk. I could care less. And then on the other hand, it just shows you that someone's being immature and that they have their priorities out of whack. I guarantee you they don't get as ill and as defiant and as combative over things that actually matter. I've met a lot of people like that. They'd want to fight over the South Carolina Clemson rivalry. When it comes to things they should really have a spine and a backbone, my goodness, there's bananas that has more of a spine and a backbone than they have when it's time to actually stand up for something worthwhile. But so I try to keep it, I like to have fun, pick at people, but at the end of the day, it's not that big of a deal. When we look at Clemson in this upcoming season and we see them playing against LSU, I take what Steve Spurrier said about LSU having talent, and I know he was talking about years ago. But that is one of the reasons it's really tough to talk to some LSU fans about their talent and have them overlook the questions at coaching, questions at the coaching position. Now, I'm going to tell you this. There's some LSU fans who love to comment on my stuff, and I'm glad you're here. I really am. I'm interested to see what other people what they have to say and their approach and so on. With that said, I have been watching college football for many, many years. I've had several discussions / arguments, and now that's changed with me because, quite honestly, I've matured and I've grown a brain and realized what a priority is versus not a priority. I've been guilty, but I've learned from it. It's just not worth it. But I have watched people, including the mass media, buy into teams just because of history and recruiting, and they overlook coaching. And folks, it's like clockwork. I don't care what decade you're in, they do this all the time. All the time. And I'm just telling you, it is annoying because you can't have a logical conversation. Steve Spurrier was right there. LSU had tons of talent. Remember the LSU team that Clemson beat in the Peach Bowl? 4th and 16? Did you go look at that roster and who was playing for LSU? LSU had no business playing by that talent. They had no business playing in anything other than the national championship. But let's flip the script. Let's go up to Boise, Idaho, Chris Peterson, when he was there. He had guys that most big-time programs, and even the programs right below that, would have never offered coming out of high school. And what did Chris Peterson do? He took them and beat Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl in one of the greatest games in college football history. But that team could play football. Why? Because Chris Peterson could coach. He could develop players. Now, I don't know everything about him personally and so on, so I'm not taking up for him or putting him on a pedestal, but I am talking about the reason that we know Chris Peterson is because he was a football coach. And for what he did as a profession, he was unbelievable. But how did he become unbelievable? Instead of looking at that time would have been the Oklahomas of the world, the Floridas of the world, the Southern Cals of the world, the Texases. Now we're talking about, 17, 18 years ago. Instead of looking at them and going, well, man, they get all the talent. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go out here and coach this little football team. Maybe I can get lucky and get about 8 wins, and maybe a little bigger program will take a chance on me, roll the dice, give me a chance. And then when I have better players, then I can compete. Nope. He did something that most coaches in sports across the board, they don't do. They don't look at their talent and go, hold on, I know here's the game plan that I have and I want to run, but I don't have the personnel to run this talent. Notice I said personnel, I didn't say talent. Really, I have the talent to run plays, but I don't have the personnel to run these types of plays. And so they're at a moral dilemma. I either be prideful and go my way or the highway, and I'm the coach, and blah, 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 blah. Or this university hired me to win. And especially when you're taking a job like at Boise State. I mean, right now we look at Boise State in a different light because of Chris Peterson. But at the time, they were just a team who was performing above average, but they had not accomplished the history that we know about right now. Right? So history was the future. Sit and think about that for a second. I feel like a philosopher. But Chris Peterson did something that most coaches would not do. They're too prideful. They're too arrogant. They're too stubborn. They're too full of themselves. And then you have all of these people enabling around them going, that's how guys like this, he's a competitive guy. He doesn't like to be told he's wrong. One of the best ways to figure out if someone is going to live a very, very tough life and has limited success unless everything aligns exactly like they want it, which, by the way, you'll be waiting until you're a skeleton in most cases, is to see if a person is unwilling to do what needs to be done to get the job done. It's their way or the highway, buddy. Chris Peterson was not that guy. He came in and said, you know what? This is what I have. I'm going to develop it. And that team went down in infamy. In the halls of college football, that Boise State team that went in and beat Oklahoma, a team loaded with talent. More talent than Boise State's ever had walked through the doors of Boise, Idaho. A team that was a national championship contending Oklahoma Sooners team and beat them. And not only beat them, called 2 of the best iconic plays in college football history. It's called strategy. And this massive rant of mine comes back to, you can have all the good football players that you want to, folks. Hey, Clemson found that out in 2023. We look at that team and we go, hold on. They went 9-4, counting the bowl win. That's the first season in a long time that Dabo Swinney hasn't had 10 wins, and that's unbelievable. But Clemson had a ton of talent, but what did they not have? Coaching. Dabo was on the sidelines, not taken away from Coach Swinney. But the strategy, it wasn't there. It wasn't. You go back and you look at the talent that was on that Clemson football team. They had no business losing to NC State. They had no business losing to Duke. There's 2 wins right there that would have flipped the script. Just one of them, by the way, just one of them would have given Clemson another 10-win season. Clemson was up, 17-7 on Miami? Correct me if I'm wrong there. For some reason, I have that in my head. I could be wrong. Maybe it's bad Chinese food I ate. and I'm having an episode. If I fall out here in the floor, just try to get me some help. But my point in all of this, is you can have all the good football players that you want, but who is running the team and or who's coaching the team across the board? We saw the impact of one offensive line coach. How much of an impact he had on Clemson. And that's it. It's a big deal. So Steve Spurrier's right. Oh, you can have a lot of good ball players on your team, and you can still lose. And in his words, LSU should know this. LSU knows this. Spurrier, he knew how to stir the pot. I've told you, if you've watched my channel before, you may have heard me mention that my dad used to drive a charter bus, and he drove for all the big teams. He did this for many, many years. And he drove Steve Spurrier. And before he drove him, I was like, you're driving for Spurrier. You never drove for him before. He's like, no. And, you see Spurrier in some of the smart aleck comments and stirring the pot, the things that he's done over the years. You're sitting there going, what is Steve Spurrier like? So I was like, oh, man, this is, how's he going to be? Is he going to be arrogant? And my dad said he was such a nice guy. He just knows how to stir the pot. And Steve Spurrier, whether you love him or hate him, the guy could coach. That was one of the guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to get into the comment section real quick. Then we're going to go back and talk a little more. Shane Bentley, as a Georgia fan, Spurrier made my life rough at 2 different locations. Yeah. Big John, I'll tell you one guy that can't take it and wants to fight. Last name is Jackpot. Carolina Jackpot. His stuff is good, but he isn't. Oh, come on, man. He's more of a homer than Bobby Durkin. Bobby Durkins is a homer. F&B Quan, y'all ready to lose even more to us? Go Cards. Isaac Brown running for 300 yards this time. Different coordinator, my friend. I respect Brom. F&B Quan. I respect him. I think Brom is one of the best coaches in college football. I really do. And y'all return a lot of talent. But we have a different coordinator, a different defensive coordinator who will have a different scheme. And the Cardinals, that's a game I'm watching. That game is not going to sit. We know that they can beat Clemson because, just like I just said, I literally just went through it. Coaching matters, folks. Clemson learned that the hard way. There's other teams that's learned that the hard way. And there are people who from this moment on, even after hearing me say that, they'll go, yeah, uh-huh. And in 2 weeks, they'll forget it and go, but we have 5 stars. Yeah, and you lost because you had the race car, you just didn't have the driver, baby. I believe that Brom is a really good driver. I just think Clemson this year is a little too much. Good to see you in here talking some trash. William Small, go Tigers. Good to see you, buddy. Your coach is the best G5 coach in the country. I look forward to visiting South Cincinnati. Oh, look at that. Big John talking some trash. Good to see you. Y'all come play us at home and ask Notre Dame how that went in 2023. 2 touchdowns. I don't know, my man. I don't know. I don't think so. I think it'll be a good game. Mike, 3883 coaching is a big impact. Look at the coaching strategy Ohio State had between the Wolverines and Oregon in the playoffs. Same players. Strategy means everything, my man. It means everything. Kevron Harris. Hi, Brian. Go to Clemson Tigers. John, Louisville is in Kentucky. He knows. It's what happens when you give the ball to your best players. True. No rogue season for Clemson, not the Nissan Rogue. Your reaction after we smoked y'all last year was hilarious. I've been watching ever since. Well, I'm glad. Hey, y'all beating Clemson at night in Clemson for the first time. Clemson lost it. How many times did I say Clemson there? At night in Death Valley. I think that was the first loss they'd had since 2013. I want to tell you, you realized you helped us land another defensive coordinator. You did. y'all in Texas, and believe it or not, the Citadel. And he went out and he got one of the best in the business, and I appreciate that. But I tell you this, I'd love to go to the Louisville game. I really would. I'd love to go up to. I was looking at tickets the other day, so who knows? You may look over there and go, hey, that guy looks like that, pot stirrer. It may be me. Good to see you in here. Let's talk about some keys to Clemson playing in this LSU game. And of course, I'm going to preview the game. I have to preview the season for Clemson. I may preview it simultaneously on both channels. But the key to Clemson is not to be conservative offensively. I've beat the drum on strategy over and over. I've beat the drum on game planning, on in-game adjustments. I mean, at least adjust at halftime, but in-game adjustments is big. That will keep you in the game. Sometimes if you wait till halftime, it's too late. And we've seen that. Across the board in college football history, NFL, high school, Pop Warner, whatever. But I am really concerned about Clemson's offense, not the personnel. Notice a theme here? Garrett Riley seems like a really nice guy. And if he stood up at a white erase board, he could probably blow our minds of why he does what he does. But my biggest concern this year is Garrett Riley's aggressiveness in the big games. And I've talked about this at nauseam. I haven't talked about it as much. I've peppered it in here and there. I'm not worried about a first-year defensive coordinator, Tom Allen. Why? He has the receipts, just like Matt Luke does. They know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time. I like to differentiate that you can be someone who's coached for a long period of time and still not be that good of a coach. But Tom Allen is a really good defensive coordinator. And he's been doing it a long time. So you put those two, you put talent and tenure together, whoo. That's why no one's worried about Clemson's defense this year. Strategy. Putting your players into a place where you can actually make tackles, where the other team just can't pick you apart, whether it's in the air, on the ground, or a combination of both. But I am more concerned right now with the aggressiveness of Garrett Riley in the big game. I don't care if he runs up 9,000 yards against Troy. But if he's conservative against LSU, against South Carolina, against Louisville, even Georgia Tech, or maybe even Florida State, first you have to ask yourself why. If you have the toys, why not play with them? I have never met a child who had the toys that they really cared about. Okay, I take that back. Some of them, they'd rather play with a box. But most people, if you give them the toys, they'll play with it. You have a jet ski, you ride a jet ski. You have a boat, you take the boat out. And if you don't, you sell it. Clemson has the most talented, most experienced offense that they have had as a whole in years. And I'm still sitting here, folks, and I'm telling you here 2 weeks before the season kicks off, I am telling you that I am truly concerned that Clemson's going to be conservative in the big ball games. And I don't know what it is. It's a feeling that I still can't shake. And you go, well, Brian, you've did some videos and you've talked about the expectation for Clemson. Yes, absolutely, because Clemson has the players. They overall have better coaches. I just want to know if Garrett Riley has that killer instinct. Not against Troy, not against Furman, not against Duke. but against LSU, Louisville, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas, Oregon. Because if you can only run up the score on small teams, but when you coach against really good football teams, all of a sudden you don't know what you're doing. I don't mean that towards him. It almost looks like you don't. I said that poorly, and I didn't mean it that way. You just look like they've got you, like you don't know what to do. And you go into that mindset of, we can't do that. Nope. They have coverage over the top. You have the best wide receiver group Clemson's had since the T. Higgins days. You have a quarterback who can get the ball to them. You have a quarterback with his legs can burn defenses. Heck, he won the Pittsburgh game last year because of it. He can throw the ball. K. Klubnik can throw very, very well. You have the offensive line. You have a loaded wide receiver room. I've said that like 4 times. And your running back room, it's flying under the radar of everybody, but it's very talented as well. There is no good reason why Clemson will ever play. We can't do that this season. And that's what I'm holding my breath on with this entire season. Again, not against Troy, not against Furman, not against the small teams. For some reason, he's comfortable just opening up a can on them. So for me, with this LSU game, my key, I'll go ahead and give you my key to the game. Other than staying healthy, which is obvious for any football team, it's will the offensive coordinator absolutely prove he is one of the best offensive coordinators in the country? Or will he fall into the camp, the category of coaches that Steve Spurrier insulted when he was talking about having ball players, but basically you don't have the coaching? I'm hoping not. I hope Garrett Riley opens up this year. I hope he fires away, takes over everything. But I'm going to tell you, folks, I'm being honest. I know we had the Texas game. And some people would say in 2023, where Phil Moffitt just ran all over everybody. All you had to do was run the ball with Phil. And Phil had Notre Dame's number. But there's one game out of 2 seasons against a good football team that you could say he called a pretty doggone good game. And that's what scares me. It really does. Maybe his hands have been tied with some things. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's not Garrett. But whatever it is, that's what makes me hold my breath, because if I felt like our offense was going to come out and open up a can and they were going to be creative when they needed to be creative and then just line up and impose their will on someone, I would go ahead and say that I believe Clemson's a front runner for the national championship. But I'm pumping the brakes on that. All right, folks, I'm about to go. If you love what I'm doing, if you like what I'm doing, heck, if you just like Clemson football, I hope you'll subscribe. It's free. And pass it along to your friends. Also, I have another college football podcast. The link is below. I am previewing other teams. I'm doing most of my videos in 11 minutes. It's a preview of trying to be about 10 minutes. By the time I welcome people and say bye at the end, it's about 11. If you want a quick overview of some of the biggest college football teams, and some of them, Clemson's going to have to play, you need to go check it out. You need to go check it out because you'll know who they lost, who they returned, any coaches that they gained or lost, and their schedule. And so I think that it would be a really good way to quickly get an overview of who's who. And also don't forget the giveaway was $17.90 knife and tool out of Pendleton, South Carolina. The link is below. You can see the rules. Go in there, fill out the form, give me some content ideas before this LSU game. And then I'm going to pick 3 people, first, second, and third place. And if I use their ideas and I pick them the winner, first, second, or third place, boom, you're going to get a prize. It's according to the rules. You can read the rules.